Hey everybody, welcome back to ChortleCast, and we have breaking news that will probably not be breaking news to you because this is a pre-recorded show, but it's still really important news to me and my life. Kevin Conroy, yes, Steven, that Kevin Conroy, Batman, the voice of Batman, nay, Batman himself. Kevin Conroy is going to be playing Bruce Wayne in the Arrowverse crossover Crisis of Infinite Earths. Steven, what do you think about the greatest news in the history of America?
I didn't know that. That's really cool because they've already got Brandon Ruth is playing Kingdom Come Superman, and if Kevin Conroy is playing Kingdom Come Batman, that's going to be awesome. I might have to watch, even though I haven't watched any of those shows.
I'm so far behind on those shows. I'm probably 3 seasons behind on all of them. I kind of hit a point where I just could not keep up. It's not that I don't like any of the shows. It's just I started to get behind, and then I was further behind, and then was like, I don't want to watch all these to catch up. But I also don't want to skip. I don't want to just, boom, I'm just going to jump in and dive in, and take it, whatever.
Right.
But Kevin freaking Conroy, I don't know how many times.
Seeing Kevin Conroy as a live-action Batman is a wish fulfillment.
And to be clear, he's playing Bruce Wayne, okay? Now...
Right, so he could be Batman Beyond Batman.
I'm kind of thinking that's where they're going. But, oh, man, if they put him in the suit, that would be crazy. I am 100% behind this. I can't tell. I know on this podcast we have said, or at least I have said at some point on this channel, probably multiple times, that my dream is for Kevin Conroy to play, Batman Beyond Batman, Bruce Wayne. Old Batman, and just take it Arrowverse, doing it, making it happen.
Yep. Kevin Conroy. There's a big debate. Who's the best Batman? Is it Ben Affleck or Christian Bale or Michael Keaton? Most people say Michael Keaton.
Let me correct you. It's because I want to make sure that the people understand there is no debate. It's Kevin Conroy. Kevin Conroy is Batman.
No question.
He's voiced the character for so long, and I know, not every animated Batman now is Kevin Conroy, but man, when they bring him to be the Batman in the show, it's amazing.
Yep,
he is.
When you read Batman in any form, whether it's in a comic book or a book without pictures, any of that, you read it in Kevin Conroy's voice.
Absolutely,
that's just how it is. That's the rule. So
this is a fact.
It's the rule.
This is a law of nature.
It's a fact.
You don't argue with physics.
It's in the Constitution, Jake.
Kevin Conroy is Batman. But this is ChortleCast, the official podcast of Chortle Games, and we don't always talk about Kevin Conroy, but God bless America, I love talking about Kevin Conroy, okay?
Yeah, he's
we
great.
normally talk about TV shows, movies, anime, video games, mostly video games, whatever the heck we want to talk about. We got a great show for you this week. I'm Jake, that's Steven. I don't know if I just kind of yelled at Steven, so I didn't really even introduce you, but hey, Steven.
How is that new from any other podcast?
I normally at least give you a nickname or something, but, I had to go on a rant about Kevin Conroy.
I'm the King of Thieves.
King of Thieves, Steven, that's him. We got a great show for you this week. We are slow news week. This broke right before we started recording, and so I had to get this bit of news in. There's other news. There's stuff I don't know, whatever. There's some light news that I just don't really. I either don't care about, am not interested in, or just didn't think it was important enough to spend time talking about. But since we missed last week, which by the way we apologize for, it was just a unfortunate scheduling conflict. I thought this would be a good time to just do a little bit of catch up. We've had a lot of big things that we've done that I know we want to talk about. For instance, Steven has been playing this game called
Fire Emblem.
That one, yeah, the one with the 4 buildings or the 2 rooms.
The two offices. Fire Emblem 2 offices.
3 offices.
It's Fire Emblem 3 houses.
Yeah. Oh.
And it is my current contender for Game of the Year.
By the way, side note, since you brought that up, we always do a Game of the Year podcast. I want this year for us to do that like we normally do. I think we normally do top 5 or something. But I also want us to make, or rather guess, the other person's top 5.
Yeah.
So like, I want to, before we start, I want to like, okay, Jake, what do you think mine are? And I list them, and then you say, okay, well, I think yours are this. And we list the order, and we give our reasons, and then we actually go into the real. I think that would be kind of fun. Anyway, sorry, side note. Yeah, we're also going to talk about this TV show on Amazon Prime called The Boys.
The Boys.
The Boys.
One of the weirdest.
One of the strangest, greatest shows, and it just took it. I mean, it really took a 180 for me, and I'll get to that when we get there. But anyway, it's going to be a great show. We're also going to talk about Destiny, Solstice of Heroes, because we have similar thoughts but different outcomes on that. So anyway, we're just going to dive in and get started. I want to talk about The Boys first, Steven. I know I mentioned Fire Emblem first, but I can talk about The Boys. I'm not going to have any thoughts on Fire Emblem, and then I'll have some talking points about Destiny. So I want to break, between the two, but I'm going to let you just talk the whole time.
Yeah.
So let's talk about The Boys.
Because we've both watched The Boys. I've watched 4 episodes. You've watched all of season 1.
I finished
8 episodes.
And just before we dive in, just from like a surface level, you told me, I've seen commercials for this show. They're doing a great job marketing and targeting the right people to get to watch this show. I've seen commercials for the show for so long. And I've just been like, I have Amazon Prime. I'm kind of interested, but I don't know. And then you, Steven, you were like, oh, man, Jake, have you seen these trailers for this show called The Boys? It looks awesome. There's a shot of this guy using a baby as a gun, like a superpowered baby as a gun. Like, Steven's telling me all about it. All the things I know from the trailer.
Laser vision baby blowing up a guy's head.
Yeah. Like I've seen all of this stuff, and I know everything Steven's telling me because I have been marketed this show for so long, and I was just like, I might see it, whatever. My boss, when it comes out, he's like, man, have you heard about The Boys? The Boys so good. He got like one of our coworkers who does not like superhero stuff to watch it, and she's like, she finished it like in a day. She was like, oh man, it was so good.
Yep.
So I was just like, I have Amazon Prime. I have no reason not to at least watch it. I watched episode 1 and could not stop.
Yep. Like so the premise of The Boys, if I may.
Yes, please.
Is basically in a world where there are superheroes. Basically, imagine our modern world, but superheroes are an established thing. Where they are a business, where you've got this big team of heroes called the Seven, and they're a brand. They're not just this team of heroes that save people. They are a group of people that are basically owned by marketing teams and business women who are like telling them what to do and what they can't do and making like contracts with them. Like there's an Aquaman guy who has a contract with SeaWorld, basically. Like they're basically, they are brands.
Right.
And in this world, it's basically superheroes if they behaved like the modern celebrity behaves, and they're less concerned about being a superhero and more concerned about being famous,
right,
and doing what is on brand for them
and getting
so
paid.
It's a dark take on yes, it's a dark take on superheroes where you pretty much hate most of them. But I was expecting the show to be more like Umbrella Academy. And I say this in a bad way because Umbrella Academy benefits from being quirky and weird and dark humor all the time. This show, I was afraid that it was going to do that because that's some serious source material that like you could really pose a lot of interesting questions with. So I was worried that it was going to be just silly and goofy the whole time. But man, this show is serious. Like it takes its premise and presents a very emotional, dark humor, yes, occasionally, but it's very emotional, very serious, deep thought, all that kind of stuff. And I was really impressed within the first episode. Like I got hooked too, but I'm watching it as I can because I just happened to start it right before the weekend started, so I haven't been able to watch it because Anna and I have been hanging out. So.
So let's talk about that first episode because I feel like most of the trailers you've probably had a lot of what happens in the first episode. I'm not going to say spoiled for you, but like you've probably seen a lot of what we're going to talk about anyway. But I think they did such an excellent job of the perspectives to go through this world, right? So we've got Starlight, who is a girl who is a superhero. She lives in like Wisconsin, Illinois, somewhere like that. It's like a smaller town. Good.
Some small Missouri, maybe some like small town in the middle of nowhere.
So she's like a goody girl, like girl next door kind of, and she's
very
a
conservative upbringing.
Yeah. And so she's had her superpowers all her life. All she's ever wanted to be is one of the seven, right? One of the big team heroes.
And the seven is this world's version of the Avengers or the Justice League.
Yeah. I'd say more Justice League because it is very similar to DC in a lot of ways. But anyway,
it is.
So we first see her as she's applying for the seven. The spots become available, whatever. And it shows her, and she's all excited. Her powers are like she has like light energy blast she can do. She gets the job and she goes in and she's so excited because she's like, I'm going to be a superhero. I want to save the world. It's all I've ever wanted to do in my life. Like, and she means it. Like, she's seriously like a fresh face,
a true superhero,
true hero. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she gets there. She gets in the seven. She like makes her announcement or whatever. She's introduced, and then the Deep, who is this universe's Aquaman, which they have done a great job with him, and we can go into more of that. But he's like walking her around and showing her around, like, this is our headquarters. This is where all our investigation. We've got satellites and stuff, and they're just kind of talking whatever. And he's like, oh, I bet Homelander was your big hero, or Maeve, who is the Wonder Woman kind of. Homelander is basically Superman. Maeve is basically Wonder Woman. Anyway, he was like, oh, I bet these were your favorite. And she was like, no, actually, like, she was like, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing, but like, you were actually my favorite. And he was like, oh man, wow, that's crazy. And then you turn around and he's got his pants down and he's like, let's go. And she's like, whoa, no, I am not about that. And basically he like blackmails her into, I think a blowjob really is all it is, but blackmailed not to make light of it, but just like, I don't think they had full sex, but anyway.
He basically said, like, I'm the second in command here, so if you want to be on the team, you have to do what I say, otherwise you'll get, So she was forced into it.
Yes, and so right off the bat, her hopes and dreams are just crushed. And and then the other, and so we see from her perspective, like, what it's like being a hero, quote unquote.
Right.
And like all the things she's having to deal with because she just wants to go fight crime and stop, bad things that are happening. Right. But like they won't even let her do her own investigation. Like they will only let her go after cases that have been vetted by their security teams and all these other things. So that they don't get the
every
wrong
single
guy.
time she says something like, this is how I did it back home, they always respond with something like, we know and we love you for that, but you're going to do it our way.
But
like,
you're going to do it this way. So anyway, so that's a great perspective. Like, okay, here's a hero who's having to deal with all these other corrupt heroes. Then we have the perspective of Huey, who is a normal guy. And I'm pretty sure the show like starts off this way, right? It's Huey. He works at like a Best Buy or a Radio Shack knockoff.
It's like a Radio Shack.
Yeah.
Like we're like a local Best Buy, something like that.
Yeah. And so he's like a real tech guy. He's like talking people through some stuff, and he's trying to ask his boss for a raise, whatever. His girlfriend comes, and they're like going to dinner, and she's like, "Did you talk to your boss about the raise? Yada yada." It's like, I want us to move in together, so you kind of have to make that happen. And that was a surprise to him, so he was kind of like all excited about it. And they're on the sidewalk, and she's like not even a step off the sidewalk, and they're talking about this, and he's real excited, and he kisses her. And then for us, like you're watching and they're talking and he says something like, how dare you besmirch the name of Billy Joel or something. And we see her like it's an over the shoulder shot of like over her shoulder looking at him. And he says that and then she disappears. Like poof, she gone. And you're like, what? And then like blood starts to hit his face and it's all in slow motion and it slowly turns and you see just blood and like you see like a jawbone and like just
a pile of gore. And after you like kind of get the full picture, it goes back into normal speed and you see this guy, this superhero called the A-Train, who's basically the Flash, and he has run through her
on accident. He was just running. And he has like a bag, and he looks like he's drugged, right? And he looks down, sees what he's done. He's like, I can't stop. And he just jets off. And so like in a span of a second, Huey's life has just been eviscerated.
And it zooms out, and he's like saying like her name, like Robin, where'd you go? And it zooms out to show that he's holding her hands.
Yes.
Her hands are the only thing that were left intact. So like, ugh.
Oh man. And so then it cuts to after the funeral, and there's a news story about it. And A-Train's like, our deepest condolences. Like, I was trying to stop a robbery, and she just got in the way. Like, man, we're so sorry, whatever.
Said that she was like in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
But she was like half a step off the curb, as Huey repeats over and over again. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, so basically he hates A-Train, and like it was established pretty early on with the whole asking the boss for a raise thing that Huey's pretty much a pushover. And so he starts like going after like, how can I sue this guy? Like, what can I do? And his dad tells him, he's like, you don't have to fight. Like, you can't do this. Like, I don't want you to get hurt. Like, just drop it. Just leave it. Because they were offering him money to like not talk about this.
Yeah.
And he was just like, just take the money and be done with it, whatever. And so then this guy named Billy Butcher shows up, and
played by Carl Urban, who is one of the most underrated actors. He's great. He's Éomer from Lord of the Rings. He's Bones from the new Star Trek movies. He's the new Judge Dredd from the more recent Judge Dredd movie. Mm-hmm. He's a great actor. I love him. He's amazing.
But anyway, so then the rest of the show is like is Huey and Billy Butcher and this team that slowly starts to grow, trying to take on the supers. And it just it goes in so many interesting directions, and like we've talked about it a little bit on live streams, but Steven, on that live stream, my thing, I was like, it's so interesting seeing their perspective on like they talk about Christianity. Like, there's a superhero who's basically Elastic Man or Mr. Fantastic, who's like this preacher. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a person to compare him to.
Televangelist.
Yeah, like some sort of televangelist guy, and like there's
like
a whole,
Joel Osteen.
Yeah, there's a whole episode dedicated to this world and Christianity, and
I think that's the next episode for me.
Okay, yeah, and like they just go in every interesting direction, and like on the live stream, I was telling Steven, I was like, it's so interesting because all these superheroes are basically corrupt, but like, and they're all very selfish and like, I'm not gonna do something if it could hurt me. But in my head, I'm like, but what about supervillains? Like, because all I had seen up to that point when we talked on the live stream, I was like, all I've seen is them fighting, common criminals, just people who are normal with guns and whatever. So what happens when a supervillain shows up? They go that way, and it's so not what you're expecting. It's so good. Mm-hmm. And it's weird and it's gory, but it's so interesting you can't look away.
Yeah, and like even the heroes, they did a good job of not making them 100% irredeemable.
Right.
Like they're terrible. But
for perfect example, The Deep. Okay, what I just told you that happened in episode 1, you would think you just would hate this guy for the rest of the episode, for the rest of the show. And to some degree, okay, yeah, he did a horrible, like unforgivable thing, but you see just how much shit he gets, and it made me feel bad for how I've thought about Aquaman all these years.
That's totally what they were going for.
It's absolutely what they were going for. He is basically Aquaman in our world, where we all shit on Aquaman, at least until Jason Momoa. We were all shitting on Aquaman, like, oh, what a stupid hero, what a stupid whatever. That is him 100% in this world. And just some real crappy stuff happens to him, and he has a lot of really weird situations he finds himself in. But anyway.
Yeah. It's a great show.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a fan of the superhero genre but want something different, this is very different, very, very interesting, very compelling. But if you're squeamish, if you don't like nudity or gore or language, do not watch this show.
The gore, absolutely. There are some things that happen that I literally like screamed and turned away and just like had real reactions to, because I was just like, oh my gosh, is this happening? Like, whoa, my gosh, what are they? They are showing this, like, that's crazy. It does have nudity in it, but it's not like Game of Thrones level nudity or anything like that.
which is the reason that I was able to keep watching, because like gratuitous nudity in shows bothers me.
And I wouldn't say,
and so
it's really not that bad. Like, there is some.
It's not,
but it's not bad.
trickled in like very scarcely. Like there even in the 4 episodes I've seen, there have been a lot of opportunities where they totally could have shown more, and they didn't. They took the high ground, so good for them.
And what's interesting, an interesting thing I'll say about that: how many naked women or women nudity have you seen? Because from what I remember,
it's been about 1 for 1.
Oh, really? See, every moment I can think of, it was a male that was nude in the show.
Well, it's been about an even split between the two. I did not expect to see a penis on this show, but I did. But every time that there's been like male nudity, whether it was frontal or from the back, like for every one of those, there's probably been one of a woman. So they've, I guess, been equal with equal opportunity nudists. But the gore, though,
the gore is crazy.
Like without context, a guy gets his head crushed from a woman's thighs, and his head just pops like a zit, and you see it. Like it's pretty bad, but the content within it, like the characters, the writing, and everything, the performances, it's excellent.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, it's really.
And
good.
I'm excited to finish it. Yeah.
When you finish it next week, we may come back to this conversation and really go into what happens at the end. But it's really good. Highly recommend. Okay, Steven, tell me about this Fire Emblem 3 offices that you have come to love and adore.
Fire Emblem 3 Houses came out last Friday. Not this past Friday, but the one before that. And I've been completely hooked. So basically, to add context to what Fire Emblem is, I think it's a safe bet that more people who watch us are familiar with XCOM than they are Fire Emblem, because of me. So
he takes full credit.
I'm going to use XCOM. I too. I'm proud of that. I'm going to use XCOM as a example for a lot of this. So Fire Emblem is like XCOM in that there is top-down turn-based tactical combat. There is permadeath. So when a soldier dies, they're gone for good. And there's RPG mechanics trickled in where you can give them equipment, you can change their abilities, all that kind of stuff. But Fire Emblem was the first. Fire Emblem came before XCOM. Fire Emblem, according to some research that I've done, I don't know how accurate this is, but Fire Emblem created permadeath in video games. Which I don't know how true that is.
I don't know how true it is either, but I learned about the concept of permadeath from Fire Emblem. So,
yeah. Like, it goes all the way back to, like, Super Famicom, which is, like, really long time ago. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, permadeath is a huge part of the game. But with 3 houses, you normally you are taking the part of, like, a lord character is what they call it, which is basically, like, the character that, the main character, the one whose survival is mandatory. If they die, you lose. You got to start the mission over. But in this game, you have 2 main characters. You've got Byleth, which is I'm going to call him /her Byleth because that's the default name, but you can change it. So you've got Byleth, and, well, I'll get to the others. And when you pick Byleth, you are a mercenary child of this guy named Geralt, and you link up with this monastery called Garreg Mach. And at Garreg Mach, it's an officer academy that is basically the neutral ground between the three kingdoms that surround the monastery. So it's in the middle, and then you've got the Leicester Alliance to the right, which is the Golden Deer. Then you've got the whatever empire, screw them, Black Eagles to the south. And then you've got the Kingdom of Fargus to the north. When you get to the monastery, you meet these three characters. Dimitri, the Prince of Fargus. Claude, the son of the leader of the Leicester Alliance. And then Edelgard, piece of trash, heir to the throne of the piece of trash empire. They represent the three houses. That's where the game's namesake is. Blue Lions, Yellow Golden Deer, and Black Eagle. So as Byleth, you through a series of events, you were brought to the monastery as a professor in the Officers Academy. So you're getting to teach groups of students from the different houses. But you pick one. You pick the one that you're stuck with for the rest of the game. Fortunately, I did my research, so I didn't pick Black Eagles because I'm not human garbage. I picked... I'll explain, I promise.
Are you... Hang on. I don't want to like derail too long here, but are you going to play through as Black Eagle?
Heck no.
Okay.
I'm not.
Continue.
I'm not going anywhere. I will play as Golden Deer. That's going to be my second playthrough.
Right.
But no, I will never be caught dead playing as the Black Eagles. Awful.
Okay.
I'll explain. So I picked the Blue Lions. So I had Dimitri as my main character, and then 7 other classmates. And I'm going to talk about a lot of those classmates. In fact, I'll go ahead and introduce them now. Dedu is Dimitri's bodyguard. And in the houses, when you pick your house, you have the Lord character, which in my case was Dimitri, and their right hand, which in my case was Dedu. They are integral to that house, so they can't be recruited outside of it. So even though Dedu is not a Lord character, if I played Golden Deer, I couldn't get him. He's just a part of that story. So Dedu is Dimitri's bodyguard. He's from the Kingdom of Duscar, which has had a shaky history, and he owes his life to Dimitri. So he's very much his bodyguard, never leaves his side. Sylvain, who is basically a skirt chaser, as Dimitri puts it. He's a guy who just loves to hit on women.
Okay.
And he's just really flirtatious, and he's a meme for most of the story, where like whenever the class is talking, they're like, "Oh no, the monastery's in trouble," and then it goes to Sylvain, and he's like, "Think of all the women that could get killed," and it's like, "Shut up, Sylvain." But then there's Mercedes, who is one of my favorite characters. She's actually the character that I'm getting.
And this is all
Byleth to marry.
students from the Blue Lions right now.
This is all Blue Lions.
Okay, sorry.
Specific.
Just want to make sure.
Yes. So Mercedes, which I didn't know this until after I'd already decided that she was the girl that I was going to get Byleth to marry. In Spanish class, Anna's name was Mercedes.
Aww.
Thought that was funny. Yeah. Mercedes is just a very timid girl who was born into nobility but ended up being a commoner who wanted to just devote her life to the church. So she is a healer, like a priest who is very ingrained in life in the monastery. Then there's Ash, who is my favorite character in the game, probably. He is a commoner who was basically living on the street as a street urchin with his younger brother and sister, and providing for them at 6 years old. And you find this out later through support conversations, but he ended up stealing from the wrong guy, a nobleman named Lenato. And he got caught. And Lenato basically was like, this won't do. You and your siblings need a home. So he adopted them. So Ash is a commoner adopted into nobility, and that's how he ended up at the monastery. And he's a great character, and it's just a coincidence that he actually is my best archer. So I love him for that. And then there's Annette, who's like a really neurotic kind of study, I can't stop being better kind of girl. The example I used for her was Amy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I don't know if anybody gets that.
I know exactly.
But then there's Felix, Okay, cool. Then Felix, who his brain is a sword. That's kind of what I say about him. He's this guy who's just like, I need to keep training. I need to be the best swordsman I can. But he is a childhood friend with Dimitri, who this whole time through the game has been saying, this man that you know, you don't really know who he is. He's got a dark side, and you're going to see it. Like, he's been kind of warning everybody about Dimitri. But he's a great character. Like, he starts off kind of a douche, but he ends up being really cool. And who else am I forgetting? And Ingrid, who basically is another childhood friend of Dimitri. She's my Pegasus Knight. She's nobility, friends with Sylvain and Dimitri, all that kind of stuff. So I say all this because these characters, everyone but Dimitri and Byleth in my playthrough, is supposed to be a side character. Mm-hmm. If you scoot through the game and don't really care about development or anything like that, they will be side characters. But if you do as I have done, where you instruct manually whenever you get the opportunity, which is where basically you get to, every week of game time, you get to choose what each student develops in. Like Ash, him being my main archer, I wanted him to be as far into bows as possible, so he learned better with the bow every single week. So you can do all that, or you can just let that pass by, which, Jake, if you ever did play this game, I imagine that's what you would do.
I feel like I would have to, just because of how much time is involved.
Yeah.
But
yes. But when you go to the monastery, because every single week of game time, you have a free activity where you can either go do battle, go to a seminar, which I've yet to really see the point in doing those, or you can go to the monastery, which is where you can like interact with students, go fishing, do gardening, have a meal with students to increase their motivation and their bond, all that kind of stuff. If you do all that stuff, you learn about these characters. Mm-hmm. For example, and here's spoilers about Sylvain. Sylvain, the skirt chaser, when you start the game, you're just kind of like, oh, it's this guy. It's just the flirtatious, hits on women. He's a walking meme. But you learn about his story through the main missions, and then more about that through the support system, where Sylvain is actually the younger son of House Gautier. His older brother, whose name I forget, was born without a crest. A crest is basically a symbol of power that nobility has, and they may not be passed down when a child is born. So his brother did not receive the crest, but Sylvain received the crest of House Gautier. So his brother ends up being evil and tries to steal their heroic artifact, their spear, that is basically the symbol of their family. Mm-hmm. And you end up watching him get consumed by the spear. It literally consumes him and turns him into a flesh monster. And Sylvain is just like, good riddance.
Wow.
He wasn't my brother. Like, he stopped being my brother a long time ago. And then if you do support conversations with him, you learn that Sylvain hates the crest because he sees it as whenever women come up and talk to him, it's just like, you just want to marry me for my crest. You want to be a noble. Mm. And he hates Byleth because you find out Byleth has a crest as well. But he doesn't care. Mm. And so Sylvain hates him for it. And he's like, I wish I could have that lack of caring that you do about your crest, because maybe then people would actually care who I am aside from the name Gautier. Wow. And so he even says in a support conversation, Byleth is like, so these women, the real feelings you have towards them. And he's like, I would say hatred. I hate all of them because they don't care who I am. They only want me for my crest, and none of them actually care who the man Sylvain is. And in just a matter of a few conversations that are optional but easy to get, you go from thinking this character is just a walking joke to being like, wow, this is a deep character that has like really deep convictions and motivations and reason for being the way he is. That's one character out of the cast of 8 that I get through one playthrough. Mm-hmm. And all of the characters have that level of depth. Ash, for example, remember Leonardo, the guy that adopted him?
Right.
He ends up being tricked into attacking the monastery, and we have to kill him.
Spoilers.
Yeah, we have to kill it's been pretty publicly known because it's one of the early missions, so it's been very very leaked. You have to kill Leonardo and Ash for the next several weeks at the monastery. You just find him at the cathedral if you explore, and he's just praying for Leonardo's soul.
Oh.
And like, because he's like, the man that we killed was not my father. He changed, like something changed him. And so these characters are so good. Like, I was shocked every single time I had a support conversation and learned more about these people, because that's what they are. They're people.
Right.
Like they're not just soldiers. And this is why I use XCOM as an example, because with XCOM, the soldiers have personality because you give them personality.
Right.
In Fire Emblem, you are putting your friends to war because you've gotten to know these characters. Like, if I got to know Sylvain as well as I did, or Ash, and they died, and I couldn't change that, that would devastate me.
Right.
Because it's literally like this person that I've put so much effort into getting to know, so much effort into training them and teaching them to be the best hero they could be, and they're gone. Like, the game, fortunately, if you play on the more moderate difficulties, that's not an issue where you can just either rewind time back a few steps to undo mistakes, or you can just restart the mission. But like on harder difficulties, I don't think you have those luxuries. No. So you're stuck with whatever happens. So in the game, and I know that was a long rant just to kind of set the stage for like the characters. But in the game, you can recruit outside of your house. So for example, I've recruited a guy named Linhart, who is from Black Eagles, the trash house. And it's really cool how well he's been integrated, because he is Black Eagles. But then if you get stats up to a certain extent and then get some support with them, you can go up and be like, hey, do you want to join my house? And they'll be like, yeah, sure. And then suddenly you're training them too. So you literally just take a student, and then they're in your class, and they're integrated in all the story. And they do a really good job of making it feel like they belong there. When you look from a game development standpoint, it's very obvious that like in a Blue Lion playthrough, they planned for Blue Lions to be there.
Right.
And obviously they expect you to recruit other people, but they do a good job of trickling them in outside of Blue Lion cutscenes to where it feels like they're part of your story. So all that to be said, you thought that was long, and I'm not gonna go for too much longer, but I say you thought that was long. All of that was part one.
Right.
And that was extremely abridged. A lot happens in part one. Part two,
you were at 40 something hours at the end of part 1.
40 hours when I hit part two. Part two is a 5-year time skip. So you get to see where the characters are after the academy. And here's what I'm going to go into spoil. Well, first, before I go into spoilers, think about that.
That's a long time.
The story, it's a long time. The story really picks up and starts like with an average Fire Emblem game. When part two starts, that's when it starts to feel like a traditional Fire Emblem story. Like Warring Kingdoms, you're following the exploits of one leader and them trying to fight back.
Right.
40 hours into the game, I'm starting the story.
Right.
Everything before that is basically building these relationships with these characters, getting to choose their paths in life, and getting to know them and setting the stage for all the turns that happen. A lot of people are like, that's too much. And I'm just like, give me all of it.
Yeah. It definitely is a certain type of person looking for a
Yes.
certain type of experience to do. Like, I feel like before I was playing a lot of different games and had games like Destiny where like you've got to check in every couple weeks to like keep up. I wouldn't have played a game like even The Witcher. The Witcher, I was so glad it was so long, and then they added the DLC to be even longer. You know, if you like games like that, this is a great investment because you're 40 hours in and you're just now getting to really the story.
Yeah. And the story, speaking of which, here's the spoilers. So Brody, if you're watching, anybody who does not want the Blue Lion path or possibly all of the game paths to be spoiled to an extent, because I'm not very far into part 2. But here we go. You find out that Dimitri, the Prince of the Blue Lions, my main character, basically witnessed the death of his parents and I think brother at the hands of the Flame Emperor or something like that. And you find out that the person behind a lot of the stuff happening at the monastery is the Flame Emperor. So he starts to go mad. He's very much like, I'm going to kill that SOB, and then I'm going to, take their head and put it on a platter, and then I'm just going to hang it up on my mantle. And it's just like, okay, this is not the guy that we knew. Because Dimitri, before that point, was very chivalrous, very noble, very kind, just typical princely kind of figure. Then you find out the identity of the Flame Emperor is Edelgard from the Black Eagles. And that's Dimitri's stepsister. He loses his mind. Sorry, my mom called me. Kaylin, count it. But Dimitri absolutely loses his mind and basically says, like, I'm going to kill her. I'm going to crush her head between my hands and enjoy the feeling of her blood oozing down my fingertips. Like, he is gone.
That's a nervous laugh.
Yeah. And then the Garreg gets attacked because Edelgard and all of the Adrestian Empire declares war. So Edelgard is trying to unify all of Fodlan, which is the land that the game takes place in, by conquering all of it. This is why the Black Eagles are trash, because Edelgard is a spineless coward. And I hate her and Hubert. I hate both of them. They're the worst. They're the ones that you can't recruit because they both suck and they're trash. And if you play Black Eagle, you're trash. So, so it's funny because, like, at first, when I started playing the game, you'll even notice in the live streams of me playing this game, I keep calling, like, Black Eagles trash because I was basically doing, like, the Team Mystic, Team Valor rivalry from Pokemon Go, where it's like, boo Eagles, go Lions. But now I actually 100% mean it because the Black Eagles are terrible. So right now where I am in the story, everyone has aged by 5 years. So the character models are completely different now. Dimitri went from, looking all princely and noble to he has long hair and an eye patch. And he just looks like he's seen some stuff, only with one eye, but he's seen some stuff. But so where I am right now, we are at war with the Adrestian Empire, and it's interesting seeing those characters because it's almost like seeing the characters as children, and then when the story starts, you're seeing them as adults, So it's been really weird having that kind of experience. But that's about caught up where I am in the story. A lot is happening. The story really does kick off with part 2. But everything in part 1 is super interesting. The narrative is not so interesting. It's more so you stay for the characters. But it's been really cool. I've really loved it. It's got some of the traditional Fire Emblem weirdness. Right. Like Byleth. Again, spoilers, you find out that he's actually the vessel of the goddess Sothis. So Byleth is technically a demigod who's teaching at a school. Okay. Like, it's very anime. Like, if you like anime, you will totally love the Fire Emblem story. But I'm like I said at the beginning of the podcast that it's my pick for game of the year right now because they nailed it. Like, I can't think of a bad thing to say about the game. Like, if you go into Fire Emblem having played a Fire Emblem game before, and you are kind of expecting a Fire Emblem game, you're going to get more than you ever thought you'd get. And I think that
we'll finish.
Okay,
I was just gonna say. So you've talked a lot about story and characters. Is the gameplay what you hoped for out of it?
100%.
Or is there anything exceptionally done about the gameplay or anything like that?
So the combat, it's really interesting seeing Fire Emblem so animated. Because I don't know if you've seen Fire Emblem in the past, but it's been either like pixely or weird 3D graphics like on Awakening and Echoes. But in this game, it's like when someone attacks, it goes down and you see like a cinematic of people fighting. That's pretty much kind of how it is. The strategy is still there. It's definitely one of the easiest Fire Emblem games they've ever come out with because it is pretty forgiving. But I'm playing on normal difficulty. Classic mode is on, so permadeath is a thing in my game. But when I play Golden Deer, I'm probably going to amp the difficulty just to challenge myself. But the challenge is there. The gameplay is really solid. They added a lot of depth to like weapons, for example. In the past, weapons had durability, where if, like, say Felix is attacking with his iron sword, it has a score of 50. When he hits with that sword, the score goes down to 49. And so every single hit takes down to the durability. They added something called combat arts, and I haven't played a Fire Emblem game since Fates, so this may have been added in Echoes, I don't know. They added something called combat arts, where it's a better attack, but it costs more durability. So, like, a heavy sword hit will cost 5 instead of 1, but it might get the kill before the person can counter to hit your character. They added battalions, which are like unit groups that you can give to soldiers that are really cool. Like Austin will know what I'm talking about, but there was one point when I had Annette do a magic fire circle with her battalion where she was like within a circle of guys that were all like creating a fireball, and they created a ring of fire that went up and fell down on a group, and it lit the forest on fire, so that entire group was basically choked out.
Cool.
That was really cool. So there's big moves like that, but then the biggest improvement to the combat, in my opinion, has been what they did to magic. Because in the past, magic had its own weapon triangle, which there is no weapon triangle in this game. That was probably the biggest change, and I think the game benefits from it personally. But in the past, magic has worked like weapons, where you have a fire tome that has a score of 40. Whenever you cast a fireball spell, the score goes down to 39, and so on. In this game, anyone can learn magic. And that's another thing. The gameplay, as far as like the characters, you choose their paths. Dedu, Dimitri's bodyguard, is supposed to be a knight, like a heavy armored infantry unit. Like that's just, you can tell. But you can, if you wanted to, you could train him enough to where he was your main healer. Or you could have him as a horse archer.
I'm just imagining, I'm sorry, I really like that idea. I'm just imagining this like huge buff, like
he's like 7 feet tall.
I'm thinking from Alchemist, Full Metal Alchemist,
Ed or Al,
the guy
Al?
who in the All Might.
Oh,
I can't think of his name. I'm just like completely blanking.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
He's got a mustache. He's buff. I can't think of his actual name.
Why can't I remember his name? Is the mustache guy? No, not Mustang. Armstrong.
That's it. Thank you. So yes. I'm thinking of Armstrong, right? And actually, that's a great example because he does kind of have a little bit of a feminist side of but I'm thinking that person. But like they have a little pixie wand and they're just healing people. Yeah.
You could do that because the game gives you the freedom. Likewise, I could have made Mercedes.
Would that be successful? Like, I mean, obviously it might not be ideal, but like, could you make a good healer out of him?
Yes. Yes, you could. He would not be as successful of a healer as Mercedes, but he'd be successful.
Interesting.
Because the growth rates are different, and because Mercedes has an inherent perk where when she heals somebody, she heals herself for that same amount.
Yeah.
So obviously,
That's better.
that's a better perk. Yeah. Likewise, he has a perk where if he waits, like if he doesn't take an action, he has increased defense and resistance. So he's literally meant to be a wall.
Interesting.
So the characters can be made however you want them to be made. But any character can learn magic. Like Byleth, I knew that early on I wanted him to be a mage of some kind. So I had him working towards that path of going from commoner, which is the starter class. It's either commoner or noble for every character. They start off as that. And then going to the beginner classes, which there's 4 of them. There's Myrmidon, which is a swordsman, soldier, which is a spearman, fighter, which is axes and bows, and then monk, which is magic. Any character, no matter the class, can use any weapon, but only classes capable of using magic can use magic. But anyone can learn magic. So when I made Byleth a monk, he was still able to use a sword as his main weapon, but magic, instead of being tomes that act as weapons that have durability, magic is learned. So when Byleth learns the fire spell, that doesn't take up space in his inventory. He just has it. So basically, Mercedes is a good example of this because Mercedes has been pretty well off. No, well, Annette is better because Annette's been my do-all mage. She's my balance. She's got a crap load of reason magic, so a lot of fire and wind spells. But she's also got faith magic. So when I go to attack with her, rather than like someone like Felix who has 3 swords, has like this much, when I go to Annette, she's got like this much because of all the spells that she has access to. And so the class that they are operating determines how many spell uses they have. So a bishop, for example, is the highest form of healer that you can be. They could use heal like 25 times per battle, whereas a monk could use heal 5 times. So the further you go down which path, like if you want to be a warlock for more offensive reason magic, you're going to go up in how many times you can use fire or Excalibur and stuff like that, but you'll go down in how many times you can use faith magic. But they can still use faith magic. So even your warlocks can be healers if they've learned faith magic.
I hate how much you're selling me on this game. I really do.
I'm telling you, it's really good. And it's one of those games where like, I feel like when you play it, you will be hooked personally, because it is one of those games that you can just keep coming back to, but it's not a game that demands your attention.
Yeah.
It's very good about picking up and playing it whenever you feel like playing it. And we're gonna record a Let's Play at some point, so I would hold off on making a decision for then. But I definitely this game.
We play the Black Eagles for the Let's Play.
I will not be caught dead working for Edelgard or Hubert or any of those Black Eagle scum.
But
so
I kind of want to do the Golden Deer. If
and
I'm going to play through it, I feel like the Golden Deer is who I'm probably going to play through.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's fine. It's fine.
You would really like Golden Deer, but I think you should definitely recruit Ash if you do go Golden Deer, because you'll love Ash as a character.
All right.
But no, we will do a Golden Deer bit. I might start it off a little early on so that you can see magic and stuff and how that works, or we may just do some Golden Deer in a Let's Play and then maybe show you some of the Blue Line stuff where I'm at, maybe, because there's definitely a progression.
Yeah.
Like it's a different game where I am based on where you start. But
from what you told me,
I love it.
That's clear.
Yeah. I said this about Spider-Man, where I basically said Spider-Man was a 10 out of 10 because I got everything I wanted, and I wasn't disappointed like at all.
Right.
That's how I feel about Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem is kind of a 10 out of 10 game for me, where I can't say a bad thing about it. Like if you gave me enough time, I would probably be like, yeah, they could do this better or that. But like right now, Fire Emblem is perfect. If Fire Emblem Three Houses is one of those games that is, I would consider a perfect game.
Wow.
Because they did everything they sought out to do and they nailed it. So there you go. There's my review of Fire Emblem.
Well, speaking of games that just knock it out of the park, give you everything you want, Let's talk about Destiny 2. So Destiny, Solstice of Heroes, I guess round 2 happened this week.
Yeah.
The
Salsa of Heroes. Yeah.
Salsa of Heroes. Yeah.
Salsa of Euros. Yeah.
Salsa of Euros. We've been eating a lot of salsa, chomping on some Euros, and grinding for some gear. Well, some of us have been grinding. So basically, this is the Solstice of Heroes. If you're not into Destiny, it's this event that's supposed to celebrate the year. It's kind of a year anniversary of the release of the game. And last year, we grinded for this armor that was going to be the first, I don't know, what was it, 500, 600 power level?
600, I think.
600 power level armor. And, like, it was just a little bit higher than any other armor piece could go, but the power cap was going to jump up to 650 in a few months after that. So, in theory, you would be the most powerful you could be before that power gap happened, but pretty quickly it would be obsolete. So that was kind of
also the armor itself was still year 1 and it never got converted to year 2. Mm-hmm. So at the launch of Forsaken, it was already useless.
Yeah,
which was like 2 months later.
And remind me if I'm wrong, but the new mechanic or gameplay that was added to that for this event was just replay some story missions, but heroically, and they had some mods and some other different things.
It was replaying missions from the Red War. Most of it was Red War, but it was the missions in the game, but with a twist.
Right. But this year, we are grinding for armor again. They've brought back the glow effects that you were able to get last year, but obviously you have to have the new glow effect to work on these. The armor I'm pretty sure the armor looks different than what we had last year.
It's a little different.
It's just a little different. Yeah, it's along the same feel. The glow effect looks really cool. At least I think it does. I've got a solar glow on my armor right now, and I really, really like it. It's making me question what exotics I want to equip, because it means I'm losing a piece of glow, and it's like, where can I afford to lose this? But anyway, the nice update though about the armor is they kind of took our criticisms from last year, and so once you power the armor up to the legendary, basically when we get into Shadowkeep, which is the next update coming out in October now, when that comes out, Armor 2.0, which is what they're calling the next update to Armor, if you earned this armor, they will update it to be Armor 2.0, so it won't be completely obsolete when you next come around. So that's a nice touch. And then also they added a new game mode called the EAZ, which is the European Aerial Zone, and it's a bunch of floating rocks, you presume on Earth, because you activate it from the tower. But it's a mode where it's basically a boss rush. You get in, you can see there are a bunch of bosses on the map. The goal is to kill as many bosses as you can in the set time limit that you have, and then that will summon a bigger boss that you fight. And once you fight him, you get one chest guaranteed, and then depending on how many mini bosses you killed, more chests will appear on the map. And the interesting thing is you get like 5 seconds where you can see them all, and then they all disappear, and you can't see like an icon until you get close enough to one. So it's a mad dash for everybody to go start finding chests until like the last 10 seconds. Like at the 10-second mark, they show you all the chests again. But at that point, like if you're not near one and it's not like in an open area, you're pretty much not going to get it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's kind of a nice touch. I've been playing a little bit of that mode, grinding for some of the gear, and it's been really, really fun. Definitely better than just replaying old story missions and stuff. But anyway, Steven, so I'll say where I stand on this. The grind for the armor is crazy.
It's insulting. It is insulting.
I don't know if it's insulting, but it's a lot.
It's insulting.
Basically, you have 3 sets of the armor, 4 technically, but you have a blue set, which is what you get at the very beginning. I'm sorry, a green set that you get at the very beginning, and that's just the very basic. It actually looks like the armor you start the game with. It's just destroyed. They call it the drained. You have to do a bunch of different grindy things like collect so many orbs and strikes and do 10 crucible matches or whatever, kill this many guardians and whatever. Anyway, all these different things. I did the green, everything I had to do for the green I did in about a day, but it was a pretty intense day of play. Probably if I had held it, because I spent one night that was about an hour starting, and then the next day I probably played for 4 or 5 hours and basically had everything except for like 2 little things that I couldn't do by doing a bunch of other stuff. And so it took me like maybe another hour or so, but scattered throughout, another day to knock that out. And then getting the blue set, which is what I have now, it's like the grind is probably tripled. The first set you had to get 500 arc orbs, let's say, which you get from killing things with arc weapons or with arc abilities. Let's say the first set you had to get 500. This set you have to get 1,500. And it's just a lot, which I've started on it. I'm making good progress so far. Once you get the blue, you can color it. So I have a all black outfit with the solar glow, and it looks really, really cool. But I'm playing with that right now. Once you complete those, you will get the legendary set, the majestic set. But if you want to go even further, you can masterwork that by doing a bunch of other crazy things. Like one of them, and I'm really encouraged by this because I can get to the legendary gear. I know I can. Like, it's just a matter of time, honestly. I don't know that I'll ever get it masterworked because one of the things you have to do is you have to complete Shattered Throne with 1 or 2 people. I have had a lot of experience with Shattered Throne over the last couple weeks because I've been trying to get the Curse Breaker title, which has a lot of Dreaming City stuff that you have to do, including Shattered Throne. I've done it a lot. It's doable up until the final fight. I don't know how anybody could win the final fight without at least without 2 more people. I just don't. I don't know. But anyway, that's to get it masterworked. So like, my goal is to just get the legendary set and call it quits. Like, hey, if I one day accidentally do this thing, awesome. Like, if I masterwork a couple of these, great. But I'm not striving for much past that. Like, another thing is Valor Reset, which I am not entirely sure what that means. Talking to Austin and Colin, who are subs, who we play with a lot. Austin's our Destiny genie. He was trying to explain it to me. It's like you get to a certain point when you play Crucible or Gambit, you're like leveling up, like you're filling up a bar to like get to higher levels, and you have to like get so high that you have to go back to the bottom, and like
it's prestiging.
Yeah. And I don't know that I'll ever get that high. Although, I will say, I'm very proud of myself. I was playing, I've had to play Crucible a lot for this. And so I've been using Wishender, which is basically the bow built for Crucible. And I dropped into a match, mid-match. Okay? It was an ongoing match. My team was getting screwed. And I didn't really, not all of this connected until afterwards, but I dropped in and just went at it. And I started killing folks, going crazy. I had like 10 or 15 kills. I was the top, like, damage. I did the most damage and had the most enemy kills in that match. So basically, I airdropped into this match and won it for the team. Like literally everyone else on the team had like 2s or 3s, and all the people above us, had just been they were a really, really good team. But once I showed up, for whatever reason, I mixed it up enough that they didn't know how to combat me. So it was great. I was very proud of myself. But then I followed up that getting 5 kills a match to somebody who was getting 30 kills a match. So I'm not the best, but I'm proud of how far I've come in PvP. But anyway, I'm doing the grind. Steven, you're not. Talk about your thoughts on the whole situation.
So Jake is doing the grind, and he's happy to do the grind because he gets a cool glowy effect on his armor.
I do.
I, out of protest, destroyed the armor that I had from the quest in my inventory live on stream because I think, and don't get me wrong, if you like the look of the armor,
go for it.
Which by the way, they're just monetizing you at that point to get the glow effects. Like if you like that, more power to you. I'm not for it. I don't like the ceremonial, gaudy looking armor. That's just not my type. So I think, from my perspective, it's stupid, but I understand the people that do want it because they like the look of the armor. Go for it. Absolutely. But I think that it being the way it is insulting. The grind is too harsh. They're trying to get you to touch every corner of the game, even if that's not your style. And I'm just not a fan of that. Like when a exotic weapon quest, for example, for a gun that is clearly a PvE gun, Lumina. This is a great example. When it's telling me to get Crucible kills and Gambit kills, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Likewise, this is armor, so I can understand. But like, I don't want to feel like every time a new thing comes out for this game that I'm gonna have to do all the stuff that I hate.
Right.
It should be optional, in my opinion. But also, it just feels like, when a parent gives a kid like a really complicated puzzle or something, and is like, here, figure this out, Junior. And the kid's like, oh, cool, there's a nougaty center at the middle of this puzzle. But they're not giving it to you so you can get the nougaty center. They're giving it to you so you'll shut up for a few hours.
Right.
That's what Solstice of Heroes is. Don't get me wrong, I like EAZ. I think it's a really cool looking area, and I liked the activity. It was like a little boss rush. I thought it was fun. But like the armor just seems so superficial. Because it is going to be armor that if you don't like the look of it, it's going to be pointless when Shadowkeep comes. It's just going to be another thing to add to your closet of armor that you'll probably never touch again because you're going to find the next new thing. So it does feel like a way to where they can get you to still play the game and make you think that you're doing something valuable when if you don't really love the look of the armor, you're just basically being put in daycare to where it's like you're being given busy work. That's what I'm looking for, busy work.
Exactly, yeah.
And I wouldn't be so offended if they didn't do this literally 2 weeks ago with Bad Juju.
Right.
That was an insulting grind in itself, where it's like, hey, we're about to go into an expansion. Give us literally all of your planetary mats.
Right.
So
let's get you back down to 0 or a lower number.
Let's get you back down to
things.
0 so that you can go into Shadowkeep with nothing, so we can just give you more busy work. It just feels like they're giving us this content to do that is not an effective grind. Like, grinding can be fun and entertaining and engaging and not be the same thing over and over again. Like, because with this, it's just like they're expecting you to put on this gear so you lose all of your min-maxing that you've done. You don't have your cool exotic toys. They expect you to do all this, basically be a low-light scrub again, just so you can get this armor. And it just feels like they're not valuing my time. It feels like Bungie is not valuing my time with this and with the Hall of Triumphs. That's what it's called. Because Hall of Triumphs isn't as bad because it's for Bad Juju, but I happen to really love Bad Juju. So if I want the masterwork, I'm screwed. Right. Because not only do I have to get all of the planetary mats and all of the things turned in, but I also have to do all of the Crucible stuff wearing Callous Armor and all of the Gambit stuff wearing Callous Armor. And it's like Bad Juju, which is a PvE gun. Like, I challenge you to give me an argument for Bad Juju being a PvP gun. Mm-hmm. So Bad Juju being that kind of gun, most of the hurdles you have to go through to get it masterworked are PvP. Explain that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. So like, and that's what annoys me is when I don't feel like Bungie is valuing my time, and when they're adding content, they're not adding meaningful content. It's just do this stuff you've already done a million times, or do this stuff that you don't want to do, just so you can have this thing that ultimately doesn't matter. Bad Juju is not that case, but I'm just more annoyed that these are back to back. Like if the Bad Juju thing was in one season and then Heroes Solstice was in another season, that'd be another thing, because then it's like, here's your thing to grind towards per season, but they're shoving these both in our face at the same time, and it's like, I don't feel like my time is being valued. That's the most insulting part, and I really want the masterwork for Bad Juju, but I just don't know if I've got the time or the attention to grind for it when it's not a meaningful grind. It's just literally sitting at a screen doing stuff I don't want to do, hoping for RNG, just so I can get this gun that I feel like I deserve.
Right.
I feel like I shouldn't. I feel like I should be able to pick and choose what challenges I go through, because there's a crap load of challenges you can go through to get tributes in the Triumph Hall. They should make it to where if I get all of the ones that have to do with the planetary mats, if I do all of those, I should get the masterwork. Or if I don't want to do that and I want to do Crucible, which is the planetary mats is the more PvE side of things, and then Crucible would be the more PvP side of things, I should get the choice. But they're not doing that. It's either all or nothing, and I hate that mentality in this game, because they're really expecting you to touch all their corners so they can up their stats and pretend like they're creating an atmosphere or more content that people can be more engaged with, when they're really just trying to get as many players in the game right now doing as many activities so it can look like they're more lived in, just so they can go into a new era of the game with a good face, you know? Yeah. It feels like I'm being manipulated, or they're trying to manipulate me, and I hate it when games do that. But like I said, it just hurts mostly because these are so back-to-back, and I happen to really care about Bad Juju, but I can't get it. Or at least I can't get the masterwork.
Yeah, see, I like... I liked several things about Black Armory, but one of the things I thought they did well was, or at least originally how it was supposed to be, was you've got all these different forges, and there's an exotic tied to each forge. So Lemonarch was supposed to come from Izanami's forge. Jotun was supposed to come from Volundir Forge or whatever. They've now opened it up to where any of them could drop anywhere. Apparently, Volundir is the place to go. But regardless,
Volundir, I've gotten 3 Lemonarchs from Volundir. It's ridiculous.
I hate you. Apparently, that is the place to go to get whatever you want. But anyway, I like where it's, hey, play the menagerie if you want these new exotics, or I don't know, the exotic quests. I find myself stopping and saying, is it really worth it? Like Bad Juju, for example, I'm never going to use Bad Juju, more than likely, just because I pretty much just use bows. Like, I'm either using Wishender, Lamanarch, or Trinity Ghoul based on what I'm trying to do. And if I'm not, like, if I need another exotic, like if I'm pulling out Black Talon for something or whatever, I'm using Spiteful Fang, like as my primary, weapon of choice.
And Bad Juju is a gun that, like, you're doing it wrong if you're not primarily using it.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So, but anyway, I look at a quest like that, and I'm just like, is it worth me even bothering to do this? Like, I'm about 2 triumphs away from getting Bad Juju, and at this point, I'm gonna do it so that I have it. But I'm not even interested in masterworking it, because it's just not worth it for me to try and put in that effort.
For me, it's like the masterwork that comes with Bad Juju is okay. It's called String of Curses. And you have it with the basic gun, but it's whenever you get a kill, you have 3 seconds of increased damage, and the higher your string of curses, so like you can stack it up to 5, I think.
Right.
The more damage you do, and the more super energy you get per kill. The masterwork makes it to where the string of curses, each stack goes up from 3 seconds to 5 seconds, which it's pretty good. But the main reason I need it is because Bad Juju is a multi-kill gun. You hold the trigger finger down, you aim for the precision hits, you go pop, 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 you just keep killing things. With the masterwork, you're not only generating super energy per kill, you're generating orbs.
Yeah.
So you're basically getting a dual perk from the masterwork for a gun that is meant to give you super energy, and it's a gun that really lends itself to orb generation. And so I feel like if I don't have the masterwork for Bad Juju, I might as well not even use it.
Right.
Because they definitely designed this version to where I'm like basically using a broken version of the gun.
Yeah.
Like it's just not at its full potential. So I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to certain things. It's like I don't want to do something in this game if I can't do it well. That's how I am with Lumina. I feel like kind of ashamed.
Yeah.
Because I have trouble with Lumina keeping up kills. Because it is kind of low damage on the spectrum when it comes to large fire team activities where everything's health is so big.
Right.
And so I have a hard time using Lumina because I can't use it well. And I'm not saying that Lumina is a bad gun. I haven't found my rhythm with it yet. So with me and Bad Juju's a great gun, but I can't justify to myself using it when I can't use it as effectively as other people can.
Right.
And so it harms my enjoyment of the game when I feel like I'm not living up to what I'm supposed to be doing. And so it irks me. It's like in the back of my head, like, oh, you could have the masterwork for Bad Juju, then you could actually use the gun. But I can't because of all these hurdles I have to go over when I've already put so much effort into everything. I'm close to having all of the tributes from Planetary Mats, but I'm still going to need like 19 more.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And they're all either raid, PvP, or Gambit.
Well, I'm down to do some raids.
We might have to because I really want the masterwork for Bad Juju.
I'm down. Let's do it.
But first I have to get the Callus armor, so first we have to do a crap load of menagerie.
I'm all about doing some more menagerie, especially heroic, because I need that sword. I've come to the point that I need it. My loadout has hit the point where if I'm not using an exotic bow, I'm kind of Spiteful Fang is just not. Now that I've tried all 3 of the exotic bows, Spiteful Fang is just not cutting it. So I've started using Quick Fang again, and it's great. But I know that Golden Tusk is better, so I need to get it so that I can really justify having it. But that's beside the point. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of ChortleCast. We do hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, there's a couple things you can do to help us out. Number one, if you're watching on YouTube, you're already at chortlegames.com. You can like this video. You can share it with your friends. You can leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you're playing Fire Emblems, if you're excited, do you think the Black Eagles are trash?
If you're Black Eagle, don't even say it. Don't even say it. Just leave.
Just get out. Let us know if you're going to watch The Boys, all that good stuff. If you're an audio listener, you're listening through iTunes podcast probably. It'd be great if you could leave us a review. Let us know what you thought of the show. That'd be awesome. You can also email us at chortlecast@gmail.com. You can let us know stories you'd like to hear, maybe questions you'd like to ask us, that sort of thing. Whatever your fancy. We also have a Discord. You can join there. Hang out with us off of stream, off of podcast. You can ask us questions we have a channel dedicated to podcast questions, so you can do that there. And then you can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook, both at Chortle Games. This isn't the only thing we do on the show, on the channel. The podcast airs every Monday at 12 o'clock Central Time. But then we have all sorts of other stuff we do. We do live streams, Let's Plays. Actually, we have a special treat Monday night. Steven is going to be doing some Division 2.
That's the plan. Yeah, we're planning on bringing back the Division stream tonight. Mm-hmm. Title Update 5 came out a couple weeks ago, so my brother Andrew from FFG is probably going to be in on that. Then I might get Jeremy from 8-Bit Gamesters and maybe McCoy to join in on that. Good old Big Germ. So we're going to be trying to do some Division, trying to get me the BTSU gloves so I can actually make a build worth playing. But yeah, come forward to that. Look forward to coming to that.
Look forward to coming to that. And then
Sunday.
on Tuesday or Thursday, we have this little segment we call Tea Time, which is where we team up in a game and do a live stream. This week it's going to be Thursday. Probably Destiny. I would love, Steven, if we could do Heroic Menagerie, but I don't know that we'll be there.
I would enjoy that too. I mean, Menagerie is the main thing I need to do now to get that Callus armor. So
Menagerie is all I want to do, and I'm not like... And this is a frustrating thing, Steven, talking about going back to Solstice armor. I don't want to linger on this, but none of the requirements are for Menagerie. Strikes are a thing that you have to do. Crucible is the thing, and Gambit is the thing you have to do, and EAZ, but no Menagerie. And that's a problem to me. Okay? Just saying. Maybe, you know what, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, maybe it's because not everyone necessarily has the Menagerie. That's probably what it is.
Also, I mean, think about it. If they made it to where Menagerie was a condition for people wearing armor that was not optimal to do, then you're suddenly flooding. Oh, crap. Sorry. We're having a picnic tonight at my church, and there was just a huge strike of thunder that rumbled the building, so it's like, that's going to be fun to deal with.
I heard that.
But if you put people wearing Menagerie armor into or wearing Solstice armor that they're trying to build in Menagerie, which is supposed to be a raid level activity, then you're throwing off the matchmaking for the entire thing.
I could be wrong.
They can't do that.
Maybe it's because I was 750 before I started grinding for this armor, but I have not dropped below like 715, and you can totally do Menagerie with that.
Well,
so anyway,
yeah, but you're not bringing exotics to the table, and that's a
well,
big
I'm
deal.
bringing my exotic weapons, which is all I really care about anyway. But anyway, sorry.
Okay.
I don't want to go any deeper into that. We're probably gonna play that Thursday for tea time. But before that, Wednesday, that's when we do our Let's Plays. We are going to have the For the King Let's Play, okay? I promised it last week. Things got away from me. We went back to Slagathor in episode 2 of Episode, and we saw the end of Slagathor's tale. We've had several people on live streams ask us, are we going to continue with that game? We are going to continue.
Have we seen the last of Slagathor?
Have we seen the last of Slagathor? We are probably going to do another Let's Play with that game. But the way it works is there are all these... It's almost like comic books that you can go through and like pick different storylines. So we've talked about doing at least one more of the stories. But I'll tell you, Steven, I found a bunch of mobile games that I'd like us to do. But there's another game like Episodes called Choices.
Oh God!
And I'm wondering if we should maybe just jump to that and see if that gives us any better results than Slagathor. But I don't know.
Let's do Choices, and then we can make a poll on which people prefer Episode or Choices, and then we can
go from there. That's a great plan. But anyway, all I have to say, For the King is going to be this week's episode. Big Germ,
I'm excited for that one.
Our friend from Maybe Gamesters. He is, by coincidence, in the Let's Play. He's not actually there. He's just a character in the game that we made, and it's great. It's really funny. If you're familiar with For the King, you should enjoy it. It's a good time.
It's a solid game.
I'm about halfway through editing it, and I'm about at the 2.5 minute mark, and we just got into the game. But it's really funny. And then Fridays and Saturdays we typically do a stream those nights. So Friday, hopefully, the live stream will be.
There's also Where Is There Friday morning.
There's Where Is There Friday morning. I always forget to talk about that one because we used to do it. Now we're doing it again. Anyway.
Yeah, people forget to watch it too. So.
Well, the app tells you what Zer has. It doesn't tell you where he is, though.
They've made me obsolete.
They just obsoleted us, man. Anyway, Friday, where is Zer? Friday night, the plan, the hope, is Steven and I will be, we're filming Let's Plays this weekend. So the hope is that we'll be together and we can do something together for a live stream. So we're not sure what that is yet. We'll let you know as we figure that out. Worst case, it'll probably just be Steven doing a live stream. but I'm hoping I can.
Yeah,
make
that
it
would
to
be awful. That'd be the worst.
I didn't say that.
You said worst case.
I know, and that's a pretty good worst case. Worst case, you're getting the better of the two streamers on our channel right now. So,
Yeah.
And then Saturday, Steve and I are going to be filming a bunch of Let's Plays, so we'll be together again. And the plan is to if we don't get to make a double together live stream that night, probably going to do it Saturday night. So, anyway, good stuff. Going to be a good time. Going to be a good weekend. Thank you guys for tuning in to the podcast. We hope you'll tune in to some of our other content this week. Say hi, jump in the Discord, all that good stuff. We had some new folks join the Discord, so we have a lot of fun over there. So, but anyway, Steven, thanks for being here. Thanks for
having
loving
me.
Kevin Conroy like I do.
Of course, he is Batman.
He is Batman. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.